Okay. Hey, welcome back, Knicks fans. I'm here with Dre, and we are going to talk about the New York Knicks. We're back in the playoffs after a 1 year layoff. So we'll talk about basically, what are our chances against the Cavs, and how far can the Knicks go? And so that's pretty much it. It's been obviously the New York Knicks. I think they've surpassed expectations based on the stats and the research that I did prior to the season. Honestly, I had them winning anywhere from like basically 42 to maybe 40, 48 games. And 48 games was like basically, according to my research, it was like an outside shot. And the only way they would do that was if Julius Randle and RJ shot over 44% from the field. Of course, did shoot over 44% from the field. I think RJ also shot around 44%. So that's why they're able to meet that threshold. However, I didn't think they were going to meet it because it's given the way they shot the ball last year and how much they struggled. I wasn't sure if Jalen Brunson was going to be good enough to basically allow them to basically be a lot more efficient, especially to the point that they were this year. Because a lot of people forget last year Julius Randle shot like barely, not even 42% from the field, and RJ shot about 41% from the field. And so just to kind of see what they've done this year from last year, it's like night and day. And so that's just kind of like a preview, before we really get into the conversation, just to set the table. But I'm here with Dre. So Dre, what do you think? What do you think about the New York Knicks this year, about their performance since the All-Star break, and then being a fifth seed?
Yeah, I would say, the Knicks have exceeded expectations. I think we all, prior to the season starting and right up to the All-Star game, thought we were a play-in team at best. Um, we didn't know exactly the impact of Jalen Brunson, but it didn't take us long to figure it out. I think that the Knicks. I think this season we are truly we are playing you know, fifth seed type basketball. Um, where as 2 years ago when we went to the playoffs and we were the fourth seed, we really weren't a fourth seed type team. We just weren't that. I know there were quite a few tiebreakers and different things and different factors which excelled us into or propelled us into that fourth seed. However, I do feel like we're legit this year, and I don't think we're definitely going to win more than one playoff game in this series. I believe the Cavs are worried for what we're getting ready to bring, and so I'm really excited. This is this is an exciting week. The Knicks are not in the play-in. We're guaranteed this playoff spot, and so it's a good time right now to be a Knicks fan.
I agree, man, wholeheartedly, 100% agree. You know what's funny? You just reminded me that I've listened to a couple of shows, and it's basically pundits that are normally on like the TV shows. They have their own like YouTube pages, their own YouTube shows these days. A lot of these guys, and they're kind of talking about each team, the Knicks and the Jazz. I'm sorry, Knicks and the Cavs, trying to see who has, the upper hand, who's got the best players. And a lot of times I'm hearing, of course, Donovan Mitchell comes first, right?
Sure.
Is the best player on the court. 100% agree with that. And then I think they say that it's basically Julius and Jalen, and then um, what's that point guard that they have comes next? Is the fourth best player. I can't remember his name, right? Darius Garland.
Darius
And
Garland, yeah. Oh,
yeah, and it's look, he's an all-star. He was an all-star this year. Very good point guard, very talented player. However, and this might sound a little crazy to some people, but given IQ, his performance and his impact on the floor, and it's not even just this year. I've been talking about IQ like since last season, the last
mm,
40 games he played last year. As a matter of fact, after last season, especially the way he performed the last 40 games, I didn't think they were going to really go after Jalen Brunson. So I was actually surprised, and I was happy they got Jalen Brunson because I thought it was a good signing. But I was
mhm.
actually surprised that, they did sign Jalen given IQ's performance the last 40 games. especially the last 30. He was like the most impactful player on the New York Knicks the last 30 games. And Julius Randle and RJ Barrett played in a lot of those games. And the crazy part is Julius Randle and RJ Barrett probably played more minutes than IQ did in all those games that they played together, especially the last 30 games. And so IQ has been like, he's been creeping up this year. Early in the season, he really struggled early in the season, and then he kind of got his footing by December. But just a winded way of saying, I think IQ is there in terms of impact. He's there with Darius Garland, and so I just, a lot of people believe basically Darius Garland is like the next best player, and then and then you kind of have the rest of the Knicks because the Knicks have Darius Garland, and then also Mobley, right? And then they have the rest of the Knicks. And so that's where I disagree because they're claiming basically the top five players out of the top five players on the court. Cleveland has three of them, and so I just disagree with that. Nothing, nothing too crazy. I don't feel like they're all crazy for saying it. However, I truly believe that it's the Knicks just through and through has the upper hand in this matchup in terms of talent. Aside from Donovan Mitchell. And so, but what do you think? What do you think about the Knicks versus the Cavs in terms of like the talent matchup?
I think talent matchup. I think it's going to be real interesting. You look at their starters versus our starters. Um, again, no one is going to be better than Donovan Mitchell. I mean, I mean, he's a stud. Uh, and so, however, when we go down to that next tier, they don't have anyone that can match up against Jalen Brunson.
Right. Yeah.
No one's going to be able to match up with Jalen Brunson. And then, who's Evan Mobley is not going to be able to contain Julius. If Julius is healthy,
Mm-hmm.
and if he's fully 100%, he's going to be a bruiser, and he's now having Brunson there will, I think when we start going matchups, if they decide to double team Randall, and if he can see the double team fast enough and kick it out, to some of the open guys, the Brunsons, the Grimes, they're gonna have to let him go one on one because they got outside shooters that can hit that open shot.
Yeah.
The only one that I'm leery on is RJ. You just never know what you're gonna get with RJ. He's like a box of chocolates, never know what you're gonna get with RJ.
Yeah.
So I just think for matchups, and then our bench, who's gonna be able to deal with quickly? Who's gonna be able to deal with, I mean, quickly is a starter on probably what is it, 30 teams in the league? He's probably started on all 30 teams somewhere. You can
Yeah.
find somewhere to put him, whether it's at the
Yeah.
1, the 2. He can probably on most teams. And so he's a legit starter. And so I think the quickly factor, I think the heart factor, just his grit, his grind, the way he's that heart and soul that won't break. And Hartenstein's playing better basketball as well. He's making smarter decisions on the court. He's starting to show how in depth he can be as a passer.
Yep.
And so, and Allen for the Cavs, I mean, he's their big man. And Mitch, I think between Mitch and Hartenstein, I think they will, it's going to be hard for Allen to be able to handle both of them. So if the longer he's on the court, he's going to be dealing with one of those two guys. And
Yeah.
so I just think we match up well. I think this is going to be a really, really good matchup. I expect the Knicks to win one of those first two games, if not even the first game. They're going to win one of those two in Cleveland. They're not going to go down 0-2. There's no way. And so, and then Obi, yeah, we'll talk about Obi later. But
Yeah. Isn't that something? It's so crazy. It's like I guess he's just the kind of. We'll talk about it later, but he's definitely the kind of player that needs minutes. um, but his defense is still very
Yeah. I am a big Obi fan. I'm a
yeah.
big Obi fan, and but right now, I mean, God. Okay, we'll get back to Obi. We'll get
Yeah,
back to
we'll,
the
we'll
Obi
go
factor.
back to him.
Yeah,
So
yeah, we'll
yeah,
come
like
back.
I agree. So I agree with basically everything that you said as well. I even forgot about RJ. It's amazing we forgot about our number three pick because everyone is playing so well. It's so funny. I
Hmm.
think about all these players. I think about basically. I'm thinking about Julius. I'm thinking about Jalen. I'm thinking about IQ next, and I'm thinking about Grimes, especially the way he's been coming on. And then honestly, it's like those are the four that I think about first. And
Right.
then, and then I think about Mitch. And then, RJ starts to come in. I think in this series, I don't think RJ is gonna I don't know if he's gonna have the impact that he's gonna have, like let's say versus like if we ran into like let's say let's say like the Celtics are a smaller lineup. So RJ might actually struggle this playoffs unless he's got unless he gets the jump shot going and the 3-point shot going. If he doesn't, I think he's going to struggle because I think it's basically so we have Cleveland, they're really big, and then let's say we get if we're fortunate we get past Cleveland, I think we see the winner of 1 and 8, right? Isn't it like do we end up matching up against the Bucks next? I think it's the Bucks, right? That we match up against.
Um. Well, actually, you have it out. So let's see. Um.
Because
No, no, we wouldn't see the Bucks yet. Wait a minute. Let's look.
because
Yeah.
we're four
Well.
or five. Yeah, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess.
Yeah,
Well,
because
no. The Bucks would have to beat the whoever's going to be in that. I guess it's the eighth seed.
yeah,
So
yeah.
whoever wins that ninth, 10th match, which is Toronto or Chicago,
Hmm.
then that would be the Bucks, and then the Knicks. Yeah, it would be the Knicks in the second
In the second
round.
round versus the Bucks, because it will
Yeah.
be then. Yeah, it will be. Yeah. So unless RJ gets unless he gets the jump shot going, I think he is gonna. The first couple of rounds is gonna be a struggle, and if we're by some crazy miracle get past the Bucks, then I think he's gonna have. I that's when I see him picking up picking up because the one thing I've noticed I'm seeing about RJ is like, I mean, there's a lot, to criticize with the way he's played this season, especially with on the defensive end. But the one thing I'm starting to notice is like they go to him sometimes in the fourth quarter when they really need a bucket, especially
Mhm.
to try to get in the paint. And he delivers sometimes. I'm not saying like all the way during crunch time, but sometimes like fourth quarter when they need a bucket, they don't mind going to him, even sometimes out of timeouts, and it seems to work. And so it's crazy. He can just get into the paint. It's just obviously, and now he's starting to finish better in the paint. Before he was just missing layups after layups. The first 4 years of his career, but now for some reason, I want to say the last couple of months, he's been finishing better in the paint. But it's just crazy how much more talented this team is. You know, given the fact that like I don't even think about RJ until like I go through 5 players in this team. So it's definitely a much better team, which is really cool. So let's just get right into these rankings, right? So the way I ranked it, so I basically did the calculation for this, and I did it based on full season. I did two of them. I did one based on full season stats, and I did one just based on statistics after the All Star break. And the reason why I did that was clearly the Knicks were a different team after the All Star breaks, and it's not just because of the Knicks too. Um, the NBA is such a long season that it feels like there's like different seasons within the whole season. Because if we remember last year, uh, Boston Celtics, what were they like 22? They were like at 500 after like 40 games. People forget that like last year, and then they ended up like turning it on towards the end, and kind of made a dash to the finals. And so that's why I basically split it up that way. I did full season, and then I did basically, the stats. um, after the All Star break. And so when I calculated it for all the teams, this is what it came out to. And the reason why these stats were because I tested it. I tested by looking for the relationship between this and teams win percentage, and it works. Last year I did the same thing. I was, and out of four top four teams, two of them made it in the finals, and so I definitely think it works. The predicted quality for the stats this year is not as good as it was last year, but I think this is good enough. And so, of course, the first thing I noticed when we look at the full season stats, I mean, it's not very pretty for the Knicks. According to these power rankings, the Knicks are ranked 14th. If you look at the full season stats, and that's because the Knicks just had an atrocious first half of the year. It was really bad. Their defense was really bad. This whole year is it's always about the defense for this team. If the Knicks play defense, they win ball games because their offense is already there. If they don't play defense and they can't get out to the 3-point shooters, they lose and they'll lose to anyone. It's pretty much that simple for the Knicks, and so that's why when you look at the full season stats, they're ranked all the way down at 14th place, although they're ranked fifth in the East. And if you look at record wise in the whole NBA, I mean, I think they got to be like top 10, right, in terms of record in the NBA.
Yeah,
Yeah, so and you look at these stats, they're ranked 14, and I think it matters. So just kind of scanning through this one here, the thing that's interesting, Boston has got the top spot this year. Sacramento, this is really interesting. Sacramento is number two, Denver's three, Milwaukee Bucks is number four, Philly is
right.
five, Memphis six, LA, Los Angeles Lakers full season stats they power rank seventh. So people need to watch out for the Lakers. Golden State Warriors is eight, Cleveland is nine, Hawks 10, Chicago 11. Full season stat, Chicago's ranked ahead of the New York Knicks. And Chicago Bulls, they don't. Their record is what are they? I think they're below 500, 2 games under 500. So it's really interesting. And then you look at the other thing that's really interesting to notice is like Toronto Raptors, they're facing the Bulls in the play-in tournament. If I had to put money on it, I'd put money on Chicago to win that, that play-in. And the thing that's even crazier is so Chicago, they come in when they beat if they beat Toronto, then they're gonna have to face off against uh, the loser of 7-8. If they honestly, Chicago can actually. I see a path for Chicago actually making the playoffs, winning both of their playing games and making it to the actual playoffs. And so that's sleeper. I think people should watch out for. But going back to the Knicks, we're ranked 14. Sucks, because and a lot of it is because the defense was just trash first half of the year. But if we go over and look at this is the stats post All Star break, and so it tells a different story. And this is the whole league. This is power ranking the whole league, right? And so the thing that's really interesting, Milwaukee's got the top spot. Sacramento is number two still. So Sacramento is going to be a sleeper out west. People are not probably not giving them the credit because it's the Kings. But according to these power rankings, they're probably going to surprise a lot of people. Uh, the Boston Celtics are third. Chicago is fourth in the league after since the All Star break. Philadelphia is ranked fifth, and New York is ranked sixth. And so, the good thing about this here, when you look at this ranking here, New York is ranked sixth, and Cleveland is ranked. Where's Cleveland? Cleveland is 13th. I'm sorry, 15th. So if you go by these stats, the post All Star break, I mean, it's you can definitely make a case that the New York Knicks is going to beat Cleveland, and it's possible it may just go only like it may not be crazy to think it goes like only 5 or 6 games. That's
Well,
if you're going
I
by these.
predict six. Yeah, I'm predicting six.
So
I think the Knicks win in six, 4-2.
yeah, and so yeah, I mean it's kind of like what we're seeing. If you kind of look at the Cavs, it's just like they're very limited offensively, right? They don't have a lot of, you know, a lot of playmakers on the court at the same time. They have basically is Darius Garland, of course, and Dennis Donovan Mitchell. They're always going to be on the court at the same time. And if they're smart, it might make sense for them to also play that other guy, the combo guard that they have, who's always injured. I can't remember his name. Shooting. I think shooting might be 38, 39% from three.
They're
I don't
talking
know.
about Levert.
Yeah, Levert.
Yeah, Karis Levert. Now he's tough.
Yeah,
Karis Levert is definitely tough. He's the only person that I'm really worried about on the coming off their bench.
yeah.
He was really good with Brooklyn.
Hmm.
And so yeah, I'm not worried about Ricky Rubio. Okay.
Remember a few years ago, he was just killing us. A couple of years ago, we couldn't
Oh
stop
yeah,
Ricky Rubio. Like it's unbelievable stuff.
yeah,
But
yeah.
like,
I'm not worried about Ricky Rubio or Danny
yeah,
Green. Um, Okoro, you never know. And I forgot, that Cleveland actually signed Evans Mobley's younger brother, Isaiah.
really. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't even
Um,
know that.
yeah, I believe they picked him up. Um, I'm not sure if he was. I think he was drafted. Yeah, but he played. I think a lot of his time was in the G League. Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of his time was in the G League. I think it was kind of one of those, like what we did with J.R. Smith when we kind of picked up his brother,
Hmm. Yeah.
years ago. Like, you're never really going to see the court, but we know this will make you happy. So we did it.
I know,
You
right?
know.
So yeah, so that's gonna be it's gonna be an interesting matchup. It's just Cleveland is just they're just a lot more limited than the Knicks are offensively. However, defense is what win playoff games. So the Knicks can't really rest on their laurels. I mean, like it's um, because they have to they need to defend, you know. And when I mean defend, I'm not talking about just the 3-point shooting because in the playoffs, it's very difficult for a team to kind of get on that kind of hot streak and stay on, basically, stay on a hot plate the whole series. So because of the way people shoot, the way the way people shoot in terms of how consistent they are shooting the ball, you can see
Mm,
like a team maybe getting hot for like let's say 2 or 3 games in a row, and 3 games in a row that's rare, right? You don't really see it like that, especially from three. 2 games maybe, and so that's why I just don't see Cleveland like you know going on a crazy 3-point shooting streak and just running the Knicks off the court. However, you know Cleveland may not care too much about three. Maybe they're like they can still win the series without basically putting up and making a ton of threes, right? So they can. So it basically it's more about the Knicks actually playing defense and keeping guys out of the paint and not just kind of leaving Mitchell Robinson hanging out there the way it feels like they've done most of the season. And so if they do that, if they leave, if it's going to be like a turnstile and it's free lane to the basket, and you're asking Mitch to basically to cover it all up, I think the Knicks lose this game, lose the series. But if the Knicks, if they got their head on straight and they play defense, yeah, I think this is going to be done probably 5 or 6. So that's pretty much that's what these stats at least suggest, and that's what I think that could happen as well. Um,
mm.
you got
Okay.
anything else to
Okay.
add to that?
Well, no. I think those stats are right on actually, and I just feel like um, I think just looking at the trajectory from All Star game and beyond, or the trade deadline beyond, and which teams got better. Which teams actually started playing much better basketball. I think the Knicks went on what was it, like an 8-9 game winning streak. Like they just
Yeah,
wouldn't lose.
correct. Yeah.
Uh, and I mean that was huge. I mean that was extremely huge. But I got a question for you there. Um, you got a question for you, Sybil. What do you think the Tom Tibbs uh, rotation is going to look like for this playoff series?
Honestly, I think it's going to be what it's looked like. He's going to go with what got him here. So the rotation the second half of the year, that's what it's going to be. And to tell you the truth, if and it's going to be like whoever's playing defense, whoever's playing good defense, that those players are going to close the game. So if RJ is having trouble staying with his man and like playing defense, then he's not going to close the game. It's going to be IQ and Josh Hart, like he's been doing most of the second half of the season. And so that's what I think happens. I think it's going to be the exact same thing we've been doing since Josh Hart got here. And I don't see him deviating from that. And unfortunately, the same thing with Obi. Obi is not going to get that many minutes. He's going to ride. He's going to ride Julius till the wheel falls off. So
Oh, you already know. You
Obi.
already know.
Yeah,
Julius will be limping out there like the captain, Willis Reed,
I know, right?
and Tibbs will keep riding him, buddy. You already know.
I know. Honestly, to tell you the truth, like don't be surprised if Obi probably gets like very little minutes. Like where
Yeah.
he's like let's say 6 minutes, or be like, oh, maybe he's trying to basically uh find ways around, and he's just caught me jamming, so he's just gonna play Obi for like 6 minutes.
Mhm.
I wouldn't be surprised if he even plays Obi like even less minutes, and so it's because it's just a more stacked team, like this year than we've had. So if anything changes, that's the only thing I kind of see changing.
Well,
Like
he's
Obi
gonna
getting
he's
less
gonna
minutes.
he's gonna try it, but who is he gonna put at the four? Is he gonna throw RJ there? And if RJ is over here misfiring,
I know, right?
what is he gonna what are you gonna do? Are you gonna go? You're gonna throw Hartenstein? I don't see where he goes unless he just keeps Julius in the game. And then I think if
Yeah.
you play him, if you
Hmm.
play Julius too long, you go well because he's gonna battle these series, and it's not always about your star player as much as it is about that bench. In
Yeah.
every playoff series, there's always that one bench player that is the factor.
Yeah.
We know IQ is going to have one of those games. I think I think Hart's going to maybe have a game, could possibly have a game. I think Obi can as well.
Hmm.
But Obi's got to play defense. Obi's got to rebound, and if he doesn't do that, his time is going to be limited.
Yeah,
That's
because
just
that's what I think he made. That's what I think. Look, I don't. It'd be crazy for for Tips to do it, but if he
mm-hmm,
does something crazy, I think it's going to be he's going to play Julius Randle like over 40 minutes a game, and Obi's going to get like 6 minutes a game. That's what that's the only crazy thing I think. That's the only other change I see happening to the lineup if he does make a change, because I think Tibbs
mm-hmm,
is that crazy, in my opinion. I honestly, he don't. If he thinks Julius can hold up and he's healthy, he's gonna do that. He's gonna ride him till the wheel falls off. So that's what I think. And look, Obi, don't get me wrong. I think Obi, the first time that I was very critical of Obi, his first year, like the regular season, but Obi really opened my eyes, like in the playoffs. That playoffs where the Knicks got the gentleman sweep. It's Obi
yeah,
really opened my. That's when I first like realized, okay, he can ball because he just
mm-hmm.
seemed like
He did
when the
well.
light was brightest,
Mm-hmm.
he was ready to perform. And so he's just a showman. I think he's a showman. He likes the attention, so he's gonna perform in the playoffs. I think he's that kind of player.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah, I agree. I agree
yeah,
wholeheartedly. And it's ironically, um, Silva, I watched the game, the playoff series from 2 years ago,
mhm,
probably about a month ago. I just wanted to look at Julius and just see, you know, if he's still going to be that same player. Is he going to make better decisions? But meanwhile, while watching it, I realized how well Obi was playing.
mhm,
I mean, he was hustling. It was like a totally different person from the season.
yeah,
And, you know, hey, you the season is all well, Danny, but you get your money in the playoffs, right? That's where you earn the big bucks in the playoffs, and that's why you know the Knicks did it pretty much backwards. They paid Julius for the season and not what he did in the playoffs. But okay, that's fine,
Yeah,
right? Okay, can't cry over spilled milk anymore. But he has to show up. He has way more help this year. You know, he has to show up. He has to show up. And some of my, the Julius Hive, as I
yeah,
call him, I said, they're already giving you guys an out. If he doesn't show up, you can say, well, he's playing hurt. He's not at 100%, right?
yeah, yeah.
We're
No,
already giving him an out if he lays another playoff egg.
that ain't
Um,
right. Look,
so
mhm.
just be ready to hear those things. They're going to come out.
No, I'm sure. I'm sure. It's like and people. I think, given his performance this season, to tell you the truth, I think you're gonna have some people who's gonna jump ship and basically turn on him again. But it seems like obviously his defenders are going to be out in full force, number one. And then number two, I think this season I think Knicks fans overall are kind of honestly they're not gonna really jump on him the way they did last season if he doesn't show up. Now I don't think they will because I think they're kind of like kind of like over it in some ways, in some respect. With Julius, like honestly, with him, for me is he had a great season. Definitely had a great season this year. I still think statistically, um, the season he had, the previous playoff appearance, uh, honestly, that was one of like it's that's like all time great type seasons that he had that year. And although he's more efficient this season, and I think his rebound numbers kind of ticked up a little bit. It's just like the assist numbers, right? It's like you don't. I think I don't know if they gave a stat for that, like in terms of historical stats, like where that kind of rank. There's not a lot of players who can do that, like in a season. What he did a few years ago, where it's like what was he averaging like 24 points a game, and then averaging like 10 rebounds a game, averaging almost seven assists a game or 6 assists, whatever that was. I mean, that's like those are like LeBron James type numbers. Those are Larry Bird. Those are numbers you see from LeBron, Larry Bird, and Luca. It's like so it's like really eye opening. And of course, like the big man over in Denver. Those are really eye-opening numbers. This year, because the assist numbers are down, I think it's better for the team because he's more efficient this year, obviously. But it's just, in my opinion, just statistically, um, it was just because of the assist numbers and because of how much load he was carrying. It was like it was all otherworldly. And then also, if you looked at his if when you looked at his stats and compared it to when you compared his performance versus the team's performance, the correlation was like insanely high. So that means basically the team came and went as Julius came and went. If Julius played well that year, the team played well, and the likelihood was they won, right? And if he played poorly, the whole team, basically the team would lose the game. And so it's rare that you see things like that, and it's not good for a team. You never want it to be that dependent on one player because it makes you an easy out in the playoffs. Um, but it was just an amazing season. But that said, I see the way Obi played. I'm not saying Obi, is a better player than Julius. Seeing Obi play these last few games, it really just kind of reconfirms what I realized last year. It really depends on like what team you have, right, and how you want to play. Julius can get it for you the hard way, right? If you don't have anything going, he can get it for you the hard way. But the other thing you got to think about too is like, down the stretch, can Julius really get it for you the hard way when it really counts, right? And the answer is like, not really. Maybe
Without forcing
20%
it.
of the time.
Without forcing it. Yeah.
Yeah, without turning over the ball and all that stuff.
Right.
Um, yeah.
right.
And, and so the biggest difference where I feel like Julius is way better is like Julius. is a much better defender, and he can play defense. I think without even putting in like a ton of effort. Obi is just like, I mean, Obi. It's like he's like confused on defense sometimes. Like, you know,
He doesn't try.
yeah, he
That's
doesn't.
that's my He
Yeah,
doesn't try. That's my biggest issue with Obi
mhm.
on the defensive end as well as the rebounding.
Yes,
I watched a few games
mhm.
where he this whole leak out thing, he doesn't even need it. He has enough offense to create his own points. He doesn't need to leak
True.
out points. And
Yeah.
and he's not like corner boy Kev, Kevin
Mhm.
Knox, where he has to shoot the 3-pointer to be effective. I mean, if he plays aggressive and he can take people to the basket, he's shown it. He's shown us plenty on numerous occasions. He has an arsenal of offensive moves. He just doesn't do it for whatever reason. I don't know why. But
I know.
I saw a play. This is where I got so disgusted with Obi. I saw a play, and I think it was maybe 2 games ago,
Yep.
where he was banging down low. He had his man, and they were banging down low. The shot went up by the defense, and he didn't even look to see where the rebound was going to, if there was going to be a rebound before he took off to go back to the other basket. He leaks out. I said, "What?"
Like
Didn't even
fucking
look. The ball didn't even. Matter of fact, the ball was still in the air, and it didn't even hit the rim before he turned around already and jetted, leaked back to the other side. I said, that's unacceptable. That is
unbelievable.
completely unacceptable.
He reminds
And
me. He reminds just real quick. He reminds me of that dude back in the day. Remember, like cherry picking basket hanging ball players. You like
exactly.
you barely finished the. Sometimes they won't even come down to play defense, or they barely finish the
Right.
position, and they're already on the other side of the court. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, exactly.
Yeah.
And he's so much of a better player than that.
Yeah.
And it's that's not his, that doesn't have to be his game. And I feel like, yeah, Tibbs punishes him by giving him only 10 minutes a game. I
Hmm.
don't listen, you are a professional, right? This is your job, right? Let's just say, hey, playing for the New York Knicks is your 9 to 5, okay? And as your 9 to 5, there's a certain expectation. And the expectation is that this is how you're going to play for us. And, to me, just reducing his minutes is not good enough.
Yeah.
That is not good enough. I don't understand why Johnny Bryant, hasn't sat down and the other, Othello Harrington. You got freaking Othello Harrington over there. Why hasn't they sat and worked with Obi and said, look, this is unacceptable.
Yeah.
This is unacceptable. There's no reason if Obi is playing 35 or 40 minutes, like he's been playing since um, Julius has been gone, that he's not averaging 8 to 10 rebounds per game.
Yeah.
Hell, you can get a rebound just from the foul line, just from foul shots.
Hmm.
We're not even counting those. And it's just being underneath the basket. Quickly should not be one of our number one rebounders.
Yeah. It's crazy.
The smallest, one of the smallest guys on the court. It's just a matter of effort. It is not, we're not expecting him to look like, Dennis Rodman, but it's just effort. All it is effort and saying, hey, I am going to go after this rebound. But I tell you this, I bet you he's going to rebound a hell of a lot better in this playoffs. I guarantee you. I
Yeah.
guarantee.
Doesn't
All this
rebound.
crap he pulled is not going to work in the playoffs. He knows it. He
Yeah.
knows it.
Yeah, it's
He do
really
better.
it's been really disappointing to see that part because I felt like his defense took a step back this year, and then also his
Majorly.
yeah,
Majorly.
and his rebound even took a step back too. I'm like, what is the problem with this kid? And but offensively, it's just like, and then I was really disappointed throughout the year too because like, dude, like, why are you just up there? Because honestly, if he just shows out and he scores and he's capable of doing it and putting the ball on the floor and just getting his, if he just does it, like the coach is not going to be upset. Like, no, go sit down, you know. But the problem is like all he's doing throughout the whole year is just shoot threes, and he's not being aggressive. And then sometimes too, because of that too, is like even his drive to the lane this year has been worse. like he's been getting blocked this year so much more, and it's like, and it's because he's just sitting out there just shooting threes, and I just don't know what happened this year. He hasn't been going up strong this year either. Last year, the dude was like a freaking Skywalker last year. You could barely like it didn't
Mm-hmm.
matter who was underneath the basket. Once he took off, it was just, he was finishing. Now it's like he's just been going up really weak. And it's like,
Well, you know
so
what? I you know when that started
mhm,
after he got hurt. Once he once he was hurt for that month,
yeah,
he has definitely. I don't know if he's still in pain. Not making excuses, but I've noticed his game has changed, as far as showing how athletic he really is. Um, so I wonder if he's scared to re-injure it. I mean, again, what 24, 25 years old, third year in the league. Yeah, that's the only thing I can think of that
that's a good
why
point.
he's regressed in that area. Because if you think about it, earlier in the season, he was playing good ball. Remember,
Yep.
Tiz was throwing him and Randall together, and they were looking, pretty decent. And he
Yep.
started getting his minutes started going up, and he was. I think he had got up to almost about 16 to 18 minutes a game.
Hmm.
And once he got hurt, um, you know, all of a sudden he's got to get him back in the game shape. And everyone else, that was hurt. Tiz put him
Just
right
put
back in
him
the
right
damn
on the
lineup.
thing.
But Obi,
Yeah.
you know, so
Tibbs is,
I
he's done a decent job, but I still don't like him. I still don't like him at all. He's just,
yeah,
I
he's
don't like
not
him.
they can't fire him, unfortunately. He's bought
Yeah.
himself a little bit more time.
Mhm.
Um, but what's going to happen is the Knicks are going to have to lose 2 playoff series, and then Tibbs is gone. You
Yeah.
know, so I don't think he makes it past. If the Knicks lose this playoff series and he makes no adjustments, like if
Mhm.
he still goes with the same lineup and just run Brunson and Julius Randle into the ground,
Mhm.
and there's no adjustments nowhere else, and he might not make it. He might not make it this year.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
it's going to be interesting to see because right now he has a fan in Leon Rose, right?
Mhm.
Leon Rose is showing him loyalty. I believe in you, but everybody in the upper management doesn't feel that way.
Yeah.
And so now you get the World Wide West, who start chirping in Leon's ear. All those guys that start chirping a little bit more. That we
Yeah.
need to go a little bit younger with the coaching staff. He can only get us to this mark. Hell, what was it? Was it Dwayne Casey? Was that his name for Toronto?
Yeah.
And he was coach of the year.
And they fired him.
And because of that playoff series, they still fired him.
Yeah.
And then what happened that following year? Toronto wins it all.
Yep. They had a plan. They had a plan. Then they were like, okay, we can actually do better, you know. And of course, it took them also getting Kawhi Leonard too. Uh, that helps a ton. But they had definitely had a plan and they knew what they were doing. But yeah, I mean, and look, on the bright side is like, the last few games, it's you kind of do see the talent that Obi has, which is his ability to score. And I guess the thing I was saying earlier is like difference between him and Julius is like Obi gets his in the flow of the offense. Julius can get it for you the hard way when there's nothing going, right? And so that's
Right,
the two biggest difference. And so when you have an Obi, you actually need strong guard play, right? Good
right.
guard play and ball movement. And I think Obi works for you. So in my opinion, I know a lot of people. I was listening to a show a few days ago. Yeah, I think it was the TLT show, respect and I respect. I like those guys because they always have very good solid takes. But they were talking about basically Obi versus Julius. And look, Julius is having a great year, and he is a better player than Obi, right?
Yeah, of
But then
course.
they were talking about how like Julius is a much better passer than Obi. I'm like, in what damn world are you guys? I don't know what world they're in where they think Julius is that much of a better passer than Obi. Obi's a much better passer. He just has, he sees the game a lot better. This year Julius Randle started doing, a better job passing the ball. But the previous years, a lot of what Julius was doing is like double team. You get kicked out to the 3 point line, and the person takes the shot. It's like it's honestly, in my opinion, you look. I mean, it's the fact that he's getting double teamed that's a big deal, right? And so that's what creates those opportunities. But given this, that's easy. That's the easy one, right? Like to me, the hard one is like,
Mhm.
can you get your play? Can you get your teammates layups? Like how can you get them really easy looks? In a paint or to run into the basket. For me, that's the thing for me. And I feel like Obi overall can do it all. He can catch. He can basically, um, if he gets a double team, he can swing it out to the 3 point line. Across the across the court. It doesn't matter. He can basically get you free, easy shots at the rim. So I do feel like I feel like he has the edge over Julius. And like I said, Julius is just he can get it for you the hard way. Obi gets it in the flow of the offense, and so I think it's just a preference thing. If RJ was much further along, and RJ, he's another person we all forget. I think RJ, in my opinion, um, aside from Quickly and Brunson, actually Quickly's a better passer than Brunson. I think aside from Quickly, I think RJ is our best passer, although he doesn't seem like it because he's so tunnel vision and he's been playing like he's been playing really selfish basketball this year. But
A
RJ,
lot
in my opinion,
selfish basketball.
yeah, honestly, in my opinion, sometimes I feel like he's a better passer than Quickly because Quickly don't get you a lot of layups. RJ is the only player that I on our team since the last few years that consistently get his teammates like layups. He's able to break down the defense, and you always see where he'll get you that nice little wraparound pass, and Mitch is right there. Mitch picks it up and dunks it. So I mean, to me, even better than Grimes. Grimes, he's got that one move where like he goes, jumps in the air and then kind of wraps it around and dumps it off to someone. But RJ's got like so many different packages in terms of being able to pass the rock and like I think we kind of forget it because he's been playing such bad basketball. But we forget like he's actually a really good playmaker. But um, but yeah, man. I mean, it's going to be really interesting. The Knicks they have a lot of talented players, and the crazy thing they can't keep everyone right, but they're gonna get something special back. I mean, Obi is like, you're not gonna if you trade him and you get something less than a lottery pick, that's just a dumb move. You
Well,
know?
they said they want a first rounder.
Yeah,
So, but I think you need to get a lottery pick for him because you're going to lose him. There's
yeah,
no way Obi's going to sit here and go through
that's true.
this.
Yeah.
He is gone for free agency. There's a lot of teams that want him, and if he shows up in the playoffs this year,
Mm-hmm.
they feel like he's just lacking time. They feel like he just needs more time on the court, and that
Yeah.
he's a starter in this league. And so, when you have executives, you have GMs who feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's just unfortunately that he's playing behind,
Randall.
Julius Randle and a coach who's not creative, a
Yeah.
coach who's still playing, 1990s basketball.
Basketball, right? Yeah.
And he's great in the season, but you know, how many playoff series has Tibbs won with his teams? There's a, he and what do they say? At the end of the year, the teams that he's coached, they're worn out. By the time the playoffs, they have nothing left in the tank because he's worn them
Yeah.
out.
That's why I'm really worried about Julius this year. Like he wore his ass out this year, man. Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
so that's I'm actually concerned about Julius this year. Jalen also, I'm a little concerned about him. Yeah, I mean that's what he does. He doesn't care. He just wears the players out, and that's another reason why I like. Actually, that was the first reason why I didn't like Tibbs. It wasn't anything to do with like how he treated players in terms of like the politics of like handing out minutes the way he did it. It wasn't that. It was really about like what he did to people don't really what he did to Jalen. To Rose and Kemba Walker. I mean, like, look, I know Kemba Walker was shot, right? But you could, I mean, like, any idiot knew you cannot play Kemba Walker more than 20 minutes a game. And you couldn't play Derrick Rose really. You shouldn't play Derrick Rose more than 20 minutes a game. I think Derrick Rose, you play maybe 25 minutes if you're lucky. I mean, you can play him 25 minutes a game for a season, and he's gonna have a lot of times off. Even with that, he's gonna need a lot of times off. But this dude played freaking when he basically played Kemba Walker 38 minutes a game for the first couple of weeks of the season. It's like, this guy's no good, and then puts him on the bench, and then proceeds to play Derrick Rose for like 38 minutes a game for like a whole week, like 7 days plus, and it was like, and of course, everyone knew Derrick Rose was going to get injured because it was like 38 minutes a game for like over a week straight, and of course he gets injured. I'm like, dude, like that was when I first was like, I really don't like this guy because he knew you can't like. I felt like, I don't know him very well, but he's a smart dude. I felt like he did that out of spite. It's like you can't. I mean, or like not necessarily out of spite, but like he didn't care. He only cares about like winning that next game, right? And then he'll figure it out later. And that's why I just don't like him because it's like, and because I felt like you're sacrificing people's health for like that one game, you know? You're sacrificing that person's health for the rest of the season for just one stupid game, right? So that's why I've never liked them. And so but yeah, I mean, it's all the other stuff is just kind of cherry and extra toppings of why I don't like them, but pardon the pun. But it's
Right.
but that was the biggest major reason I don't like him. I'm not, I guess I'm not the first person. A lot of people, even in his previous stops, and it's like the same complaint everyone has had. Before he came here, I was one of the guys that would make excuses like, yeah, but you look at Derrick Rose and when he got hurt, and you make all sorts of excuses because like, oh, he's a winning coach coming to your ball club. Then once he gets here, now then you kind of see what every other fan base was talking about, you know, and so. Uh, but we're lucky we have really young guys right now. But I don't know how much these young guys are going to last with these kinds of like, the way Coach Tibbs goes at it. So, but we got a lot of young talent, man, and like shoot, yeah, with Obi, like I was saying, it's like, yeah, I think you're right. Lottery pick is like, is a wish come true. Uh, yeah, but I think like they definitely get. It's not just a first round pick. I think they're going to get a very good player on top of a first round pick. Um,
Yeah.
because
Another young talent to swap.
yeah,
Maybe
among our
somebody in a very similar situation who just needs more playing time.
yeah.
You know, um, I think we still need a center who we can who can generate his own offense.
Yeah, I think honestly, in my opinion, I've been complaining about this since like freaking the draft happened. That whole Jalen Duren thing was like just the dumbest thing. That was like this front office sometimes they do things that make me really scratch my head. And like that Jalen Duren, like picking him and handing him off to Detroit. I mean, like there were some players where there was like a list of players. I remember thinking like, if this player falls to you, and I knew one of the guys would fall, and I was like, if Johnny Davis or Jalen Duren or Mathurin drops to you, you got to take them. Even at I think where were we at like a 11th or 12th or something like that. And it was like you got to
Yeah,
take them.
13th pick.
Oh, 13. And Jalen Duren
Mm-hmm.
dropped right to us, and we traded him to Detroit. And he was like one of the players who like if he drops to you, you take him. And they trade it made no sense to me. And Jalen Duren, in my opinion, I mean, it's like what let's be for real. Under the right training, he could be just as good as Mitchell Robinson defensively. You know, he's strong. It's not like Mitch when Mitch was like basically young and just really lanky and weak and couldn't really hold his own. The kid is strong right now, and he's like 18 years old. So he's going to be a problem when he's like 23, 24, you know. And the kid is already dropping like he's already having like 30, 20 games, you know. And it's just like I don't know how they didn't see that even coming. It's like to me, I was just like, I mean, that was just a dumb move. That was just the dumbest thing.
How's he doing on defense?
He's a good defender. He's a good defender, but it's Detroit. It's it's hard to really tell, but he's a good defender from the little bit I've seen him play. He holds his own at the defensive end. He's a very good help defender as well. So I think he just needs the right coach, the right training. If you have a good team around him, a good trainer, he's going to be fine defensively. He's actually going to be an above average defensive player. That's just my opinion. But then he also gives you the dude is giving you like I remember seeing a game. I think he had like 30 points, like almost damn near 20 rebounds. I mean, like, has Mitchell Robinson ever given us 30 points to 20 rebounds?
He never will do that. That'll
He
never
would never
happen.
do that. I mean, like, so to me, it was just like the dumbest. Like, and then people felt like, oh, the Knicks, is a big man, and big men are very difficult to train. Blah blah blah. I don't care. You draft the best player there is, and you keep him and get him right. I mean, like, and it's freaking like the other Sims struggles, and he's way better. The Duran is way better than Sims, and Duran was, hadn't played an NBA game, so But anyway, but when you said that, that's what I was thinking. It's like, they could have had Duran. They're looking for another lengthy wing. Obviously Josh Hart, we got him from the Cam Reddish deal, which is like was really good, but I felt like we probably could have acquired Josh Hart in other means anyway. I think the Portland Trailblazers would have taken anyone for Josh Hart, honestly. If we would have handed him, like, let's say, a late first round pick and like another player, they would have gotten it. So I felt like, that whole Cam Reddish thing was just a terribly missed opportunity because, the player you needed on the defensive end is like right there. He's like the perfect prototypical wing defender that we needed. And they just, because he spoke out, and then Tibbs is like didn't like him because he spoke out, but
Right, exactly.
it's just silly stuff like that. I just can't. I don't like this stuff. But,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
anyway,
and
yeah,
we
go ahead.
lost our draft and we lost our draft pick for the year. I mean, we would have been projected as at least we would have had at least, at the very least, the 22nd draft pick of the year, and
Oh
we
wait,
lost it.
we spent the first round pick on Josh Hart
Yes, yes. Gave up
and Cam
a
Reddish.
first round pick. Gave up a first round pick this year. So right now we have no first round pick for this year. Gave that up because we thought that Dallas that we were going to be able to retain Dallas's pick. And so when Dallas started tanking, I got scared. I saw the writing on the wall. I said, you know what? We're going to lose this Dallas pick. It was no, I mean, they were beyond just tanking. It was ridiculous.
Mhm.
And like they were playing better when Luka and or Kyrie, one of the two was sitting down. They played better. So yeah. So we have no picks this year. None.
Yeah, honestly, like the right moves that the front office makes, it just kind of like it just covers up for it. Because I knew early on when they signed Jalen Brunson, I was like, before the season started, I knew the signing of Jalen Brunson was going to save all their asses, because he was just that kind of player. But everything else they've done, like every other move they've made aside from that, has been really trash. It's I'm talking about basically in terms of trade, free agency, and all that stuff. Um, it was Jalen Brunson was the only good one. Like the draft night was just like who the hell knew what they were trying to do? It just didn't make any sense whatsoever. They try to they think they're so cute, they think you're so smart, and they try to get cute, and it's like it just doesn't. The draft night moves made no sense whatsoever, and it was just like nothing, no sense at all. And then the previous year, if everyone forgets about the previous year of like that they thought basically the way to get further into the playoffs last year was to get Evan Fournier and Kemba Walker, you know, which was like, I don't know what the hell they were looking at. It was just the craziest thing I ever saw. When basically the Boston gave away both players, you know. and but the Knicks thought it was basically the answer to front office. So they've made some like they've been really fortunate because of the combination. They've done well with the drafts. In terms of when they actually make a pick, they've done well with that. But it's like everything else. Every time they try to do something different, and they think they're really smart, they always end up doing stupid things that just makes no sense. Um, so, but aside from the Jalen Brunson, everything, a lot of other stuff we did, just especially this past year, which just made no sense whatsoever. Uh,
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
yeah,
definitely, definitely. Yeah, there's some things that I'm just gonna always scratch my head about, but um, I mean, I am glad that we did get Jalen Brunson. I mean, we would not be where we are without him.
yeah,
One of the things I try to explain to some of the Knicks fans is that uh, I think we would still be in the playoff hunt um, if Jalen Brunson stays healthy because we're just a different team, you
yeah,
know, uh, than we are with Randall. Now, again, like I said, Randall is great, half court. We need to score. We need to change the tide, and he can give you that. There's definitely been some games he has willed the Knicks without a doubt. But I do think we can still win some games, without him. But think about it. And I hate to have those type of conversations right now as we're going into the playoffs, but
hmm
if we traded Randall, it would be obviously for a load, right? You would get at least 2 draft picks,
hmm
no lottery protected. You would get at least two quality players, uh, for him. And I think with that, I think we would be equivalent to like what Cleveland did when they traded their players for Donovan Mitchell. We would
yeah,
be able to sustain it and even Brooklyn, you know, Brooklyn gave up, Kyrie and Kevin Durant, and they still got enough assets and enough draft picks where they still remain relevant in the East. And the East is much harder than the West this year. So, you got to kind of think about it that way. Like, can you trade some of your best players and still be relevant? The
hmm
Nets are, Cleveland is. So something to think about.
yeah, definitely, definitely, man. But anyway, so that's pretty much it for the Knicks. But just to kind of recap, like this, just to kind of look at the bracket here, just talk about it, like some interesting matchups throughout the league. Starting with the East, like I was saying, Chicago. Um, According to the stats, it looks like they could win their playoffs. I mean, the play-in tournament, and they can actually there's a path for them to get in because they're ranked higher than Toronto, right? So I see them beating Toronto in that first play-in, and then they would need to play the winner. They would need to play the loser of Miami versus Atlanta. I mean, like, so that's probably going to be Atlanta. They're going to hand Atlanta an L. They're going to win. I think they win that game
Sure.
against Atlanta, and they're going to get into I see them getting in. Even if it's Miami, I also see them beating Miami. To tell you the truth. So so that's
You
the
see
one.
who else? You see who else beating Miami?
No, I see basically. So Chicago definitely I think beats Toronto, and so let's say so then they'll have to play the loser of Miami versus Atlanta, and I think they can beat either one.
Who plays the loser of Atlanta?
Chicago, whoever wins between Chicago and Toronto plays the loser of Miami versus Atlanta, and
Is
so
that
I'm
how
just
it
saying,
works? I thought, is that how it works? So the
yeah,
play-in tournament, you have to play a couple of rounds of a couple of teams before you're actually allowed into the playoffs. Is that how it
correct,
works?
yeah, you would have to win 2 games if you're nine and
So
if you're
is it
ranked
one
nine and
game?
10. Mhm.
So that seventh and eighth seed, they're going to play one game.
The seventh and eighth seed, they play. So it depends. So the 7 and 8 seed, they play each other, right? Whoever wins between 7 and 8 is automatically in the playoffs. The loser of 7 and 8 is going to hang back and play whoever wins between 9 and 10.
Oh, I
So the
see. I
loser of
see.
7 and 8 is going to have to play 2 games, but they only need to win one to get in.
Okay, so these are all one games. They're kind of one and out. All the games are one and out. So it's not a full series. It's
It's
just
one
one and
and
out.
out. Is one and out for for 9 and 10 is one and out. But for 7 and 8, they have to win one of two.
Okay, I
Yeah.
see.
So, but I think Chicago beats whoever they run into in the in the play-in, and I think they get into the playoffs. And the thing that's interesting is then uh, okay, yeah. So then from there, oof, yeah, then they'll have to face off Milwaukee. So that's gonna be is gonna be the end to their to their dream, to their to whatever dream they have. Because if they get into the playoffs, they're gonna have to play Chicago. I mean, they're gonna have to play Milwaukee, and that's gonna be the end of that. And but in terms of like any other interesting teams in the East, uh, I don't see anyone really interesting. I know Philadelphia, they're ranked fifth. They're ahead of the Knicks. But however, they're pretty close, and I feel like the Knicks match up pretty okay against Philly anyway. But we're not going to see Philly after this round. We got to see Milwaukee. So I don't think we won't see Philly unless we beat Milwaukee by some crazy miracle and make it to the conference finals. Then maybe we'll see Philly if Philly gets there. Um,
Mm,
so that's and honestly, the Lakers in the West. The most interesting thing in the West is the to me is the Kings. So the Kings are going to face off against Golden State first round. It looks like according to these stats, they're going to handle Golden State pretty easily. It might even be like a sweep or even 4-1 from the way these it's looking. Um, I could be wrong. I mean, they are the champs, but you know, the champs are 44-38. So, but
yeah,
yeah,
the Lakers are the team to watch out for. If
yep,
they're
it's a little bit.
healthy,
Mhm.
if the Lakers are healthy, they are a problem.
Big problem. So, guess who? After all this Mac talking they're doing, the chances are the Lakers are going to run into Memphis. So I see Lakers beating Minnesota. Lakers is 7. I think they're gonna beat Minnesota, and they're gonna meet Memphis in the first round. And Memphis, it looks like according to the stats, well, it's going to be a close one. It's basically is a statistical tie between both of them in terms of this ranking. So yeah, so that's going to be an interesting one. I thought it was actually a lot different. But if you go
Mm,
back and look at the season stats for the full season, um, Memphis is 6, Lakers is 7. So yeah, so that's pretty much what it is. Could you hold on 1 second for me? Just give me one quick second.
sure.
Sorry about that, folks. Well, this is this is what life is like when you're filming in the basement.
Oh yeah.
You're filming in the basement of your house, where I thought I had an office. It's like, but it's really the laundry room.
Oh
No,
yeah. Multi-purpose room.
that's
Yeah.
funny. But yeah, so it's okay. So I really thought that they were going to, um, yeah. So yeah, that's gonna be an interesting one. So is a statistical tie between both of these, between the Grizzlies and the Lakers. So that's gonna be interesting. I love to see the Lakers beat the Grizzlies. and teach him a little lesson. Um, but yeah, I think that the West is going to be kind of interesting. Denver this year is one to really look out for. They're an interesting team. The crazy thing though, when you look at the second half of the season, they're having a. It's not as good as. It's basically they're ranked 11. If you look at the stats for the second half, when you look at the full season, Denver is ranked third. So the second half of the season, they kind of fell off. So I'm not sure what happened there. If they had a lot of injuries, if that's why they struggled or what. Not sure if they're healthy, fully healthy for the playoffs. But if they're fully healthy for the playoffs, I do see them, possibly making some noise. And so this is where I, this, the stats could be off. It could be. It depends, right? So maybe they're ranked 11th after the All Star break because of injuries. And if they are fully healthy and everyone comes back, then they could kind of make this like, um, not a very good predictor of how well Denver is going to do in the playoffs. So, but that's going to be interesting to see. But yeah, that's only the only interesting things that I see in the brackets aside from the Knicks. But yeah, like I said, Knicks, I see them beating Cleveland. Um, but I don't know what they'll do against Milwaukee. Milwaukee is they are far ahead of us statistically, and so that's going to be I don't know. It doesn't seem like we're going to beat Milwaukee. The dream ends after after Cleveland.
Right. Yeah.
So that's what it looks like to me. But what do you think? How far do you think? Do you think there's a shot at us even beating Cleveland? What is it? Okay, let's say there's a path to beat Cleveland. What do you? I'm not Cleveland. Let's say there's a path, right? We beat Cleveland, uh, with a hope and a prayer, and we meet with Milwaukee. What is the path to beating Milwaukee? What do you think the Knicks will have to do to beat Milwaukee in the second round?
They would have to they would have to contain the Greek freak. Okay. Somebody else has to beat you. You're gonna have to, whether it's Holiday, um, Middleton, somebody else is going to
Mhm.
have to step up and take over that game because we're throwing double teams at the Greek Freak, and we're going to bang them up. We got to keep banging them. And that means throwing Sims at him, bring Sims in and get a couple of fouls on him. We got to wear him down,
Yep.
you know, and force other players to beat us. And I think that's the only way because we've beaten Milwaukee plenty of times, so I think we can match up against them. But once you know, once Guinness gets he gets hot and he's moved. I mean, the way he's so strong, he's so physically strong, and he
Mhm.
just moves effortlessly around the basket. It's just insane. And we got to force him to beat us with a jump shot as well. Take him out of his comfort zone, get him outside of the paint, make him shoot the mid range, make him shoot the 3 pointer where he's not comfortable at. He's hitting it at a higher rate, but he's still not comfortable.
Yep.
Um, and I think that would be the path. I think that would be the critical path.
I agree. For me, the with that, if we get there and meet Milwaukee in the second round, I think it's Julius Randle. I think Julius Randle needs to man up and not be afraid to D up the Greek Freak. I think Julius Randle is not going to be able to stop him, but Julius Randle can make his life difficult. Julius Randle has the athletic ability, the foot speed to stay with the Greek Freak. Um, a little bit. Not, Greek Freak is like a really long strides. Obviously, is quicker than Julius is. But I think Julius, the issue for us is I've seen too many times when we're playing Milwaukee, and it looks like Julius is like a little afraid of Dean the Greek Freak. So, like if Julius can basically not be afraid and just man up and go and D up Greek Freak, I think we have a shot because that's the only way. You can't have Mitchell Robinson like because I've seen they've done is like where because Julius is afraid, then they're trying to match up Mitchell Robinson on a Greek Freak, and then Julius is on freaking like Lopez, and it's just like it doesn't even work because now you're actually playing into their hands. You know, you're just playing right into their hands, and it was a nightmare to try to keep them off the boards because of that. But if you actually basically play, you know, just play the lineup the way it should be, where it's like Julius versus Greek Freak and Mitchell Robinson versus Lopez, then the Knicks are going to be fine. Then we can probably compete and hopefully have a shot at winning the ball game. But if they don't do that, and Julius is playing afraid, like he doesn't want to man up against the Greek Freak, is going to be a sweep. They're going to just like send us home. And then the other thing, the problem too at the guard position with Milwaukee is like Holiday is a handful. He's basically uh, what Jalen Brunson is for us, Holiday is actually pretty much almost the same thing, except he's like freaking, he's all first team, all defensive player, you know, at the point guard position, at the point of attack. So it's the stats that this dude puts up. And that's one of the reasons why Jalen Brunson didn't make the All Star team this year. I knew he wasn't. They weren't going to make it because if you look at the guards in the East and you look at the stats for all the guards in the East, and you kind of rank them by stats and by output. I mean, it was like I mean, you freaking this guy is doing like what is he like 22 a game or something like that. Like probably 8 rebounds a game and like 9 assists. It's just like those are like crazy numbers he's putting up. So he's a big problem. Drew Holiday is a big problem on both ends of the floor. And I feel like when the Knicks play him, it's like, yeah, he may not kill us all game, but then it's like when they need a bucket in the fourth quarter, he always hits a three when they need one. And he like I feel like he never misses when they need a bucket. And so it's just it's a very difficult matchup for the Knicks now, especially given the way Drew Holiday has been playing the last couple of years. It's just too big of a problem. I don't see it. Unfortunately, I don't see the Knicks even being able to beat them, even if we played the lineups the right way. Even if Thibodeau actually plays the lineup the right way. I just don't see it. It's hard for me to see it happening. Anything is possible. I just don't see it. So,
Yeah, I don't either. But
but,
there's a lot of factors. Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, so that's pretty much it. We've gone an hour and a half. But we definitely needed to go this long because it's been a long time since we put something out. We'll definitely try to do something else soon. Like let's try to do something like before the playoff game later this week. Um,
Okay.
I'm actually I want to do a power ranking for MVP candidates, and then also we'll drop Julius Randle in there to see how he stacks up against the MVP candidates.
Sure.
So I'm going to use the same method that I use to calculate to do the power rank for the teams in the league. Do this. I'm going to use the same method to rank the players, to power rank the players that are in the MVP candidate, and then see who has the highest score. Uh, the last few years, it's been Joker. Statistically, the numbers he puts up is bananas. And the biggest thing with Joker too is like statistically the thing that makes him far ahead of everyone. And it's not saying he's the best player, but the dude is shooting like 60% from the field and then allows like 46% shooting from the field. And look, I mean, allowing 46% is not, I think it's pretty solid. That's pretty solid, right? Um, but it's just the difference between like his efficiency, his field goal efficiency, and like what he allows is just like it creates so like because you kind of have to factor that in when you're doing like when you're kind of like doing analysis to see who's the best impact, who has the highest impact, or who's statistically who's had the best performance for the year. You kind of have to include efficiency, not just offensive but defensive efficiency. And so the gap between his offensive efficiency and what he allows opponents to shoot against him is like obscenely large. It's like double digits. Out of all the MVP candidates, I don't think there's anyone like that. And so that's why he's won it like the last 2 years. I haven't looked at it yet this year, but if it's the same thing this year, his point total has come down because Jamal Murray and Porter, and they got some guys back from injury this year, so it might drag it down slightly. But um, if you know, if his if the stats still look like that and they give it to someone else, that's then it's kind of like one of those like, oh well, you can't win it every year. But it still does, in my opinion, it still doesn't mean he's the best player in the league. It's just statistically uh, he just has better stats than anyone in the league. So, and a lot of it is just based on, and also it's based on how the team is built as well. Everything revolves around him, and so, uh, but it makes them an easy out too, because of that too. That's the downside of his stats, and like how dependent the team is on him. Uh, but we'll drop another video talking about that. But Dre, thanks for getting on with me talking about the playoffs and the Knicks and their chances against Cleveland. So like I said, hopefully later this week we'll do another video talking about the MVP candidates and comparing Julius Randle, seeing how he stacks up against them. But thank you guys, thank you Knicks fans for tuning in, and hopefully you guys will tune in later on this week for the next video. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
All right.
All right, cool, man. All right. Thanks. I really appreciate it. I'll
Yeah. Good
probably,
show.
yeah, I'll probably put the video tomorrow because I want to be able to like promote it like on the like on those Facebook pages because I don't want to just put it out and not promote it because nobody's gonna watch it if I don't try to promote it. So I just need to. So I'm instead of trying to do it tonight, uploading it tonight, I'll upload it tomorrow and promote it. So,
Gotcha.
all right, cool. All right, thanks. I'll talk to you. I'll talk to you later, man. Thank you.
Okay, buddy. Okay. All right. Bye bye.
Bye.